Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Shaughn Daugherty. Thanks for being on the show, Shaughn.
Thanks for having me.
Shaughn is a vice president at Integro Insurance Brokers. He is a third-generation insurance broker. He assists and consults business owners, including real estate owners, with their property and casualty insurance and risk management needs. Shaughn, thanks again for being on the show today. I'm really looking forward to getting into this topic about insurance because I don't know that I've had too many on the show, if any, that really dive in about insurance. So give the listeners maybe a little more about your background, and then we'll get into this topic of insurance.
Yeah, so I definitely appreciate being on the show. Just a little bit more of a background on me. So I'm third generation in the business, and I work for Integro Insurance Brokers. As of January 31st, Integro's insurance company was purchased by a larger company called Epic Insurance Consultants, and we have about 2,000 employees across the nation, have multiple offices in various metros, and I'm kind of the risk management department for many businesses, including real estate owners, and so we kind of help consult, like the legal or as an attorney and also accounting, and so we kind of just handle the insurance aspect. So love the insurance aspect. It's a pillar to the economy. Lenders wouldn't be giving out loans without making sure they're protected. So I just want to talk about a little bit today of kind of a little bit of the nuts and bolts of an insurance policy and kind of what to look for on the key coverages when you're setting somebody up, and also how to maybe even vet out an insurance broker if you're just getting started, and what to look for when you're buying your first purchase. I wanted to be on here today because it's podcasts have been instrumental. I'm also a real estate investor, and even raising capital for larger multifamily deals as well. So we are happy to discuss any of that as well. As that's a big passion of mine. I enjoy it, so I protect assets and help grow wealth. Is kind of my mission. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And why don't you get us started? And just as far, obviously, the commercial real estate field. What are some things? Let's try to take it way down. On a really basic level to somebody that's just getting into the commercial space and trying to figure out, where do we even start with trying to find the correct insurance, and what are some key things we need to know?
Yeah, I think kind of some basic fundamentals is you want to find somebody who has expertise in that realm. So definitely, maybe ask around, maybe if you're leaning on your team in terms of like a property manager or a lender, find out who's in the space. So maybe get references to the point where you want to have somebody who's guiding you through the process. There's a lot of insurance jargon. So you need to understand like what the language is, how the intention, because the insurance policies could be couple hundred pages. So you want to make sure what you're doing is transferring that risk to the insurance company and make it as clean as possible. If there's ever a loss, then you have that to lean on when a claim happens. So, and then some other tips is, finding out what resources maybe the insurance provider can help you. Maybe they can even help on the risk prevention side, and what if there's ever a claim, how are they going to help you through the process?
So do I need, a different insurance broker for, say, different asset classes even, or is it just going to be somebody that specializes in commercial, as opposed to somebody that, carries insurance on my house? Am I going to call them for a commercial property? And then am I also going to use the same person for across different asset classes?
I think it varies. You might have somebody, I think you need to vet people out, making sure they got value. so with like personal lines, the home and auto, that's pretty cookie cutter, simple kind of risks. So if you get a little more complexities with commercial insurance, you want somebody who's in that space, or somebody who's got the resources back behind them to be able to making sure that, you know, the proper protections in place.
So how would I go about vetting an insurance broker, or maybe give us some questions that, you know, so I can make sure I'm dealing with somebody that I want to do business with long term?
Yeah, I think you want to find out, like, you know, what's their background, how are they in the space, maybe in the sense of like what insurance companies, and then what are they going to do, and kind of walking through kind of the expectations. Just for somebody who's starting out, kind of a key tip is, you know, you're going to go through probably some maybe lengthy application in your mind, questions that you're going to have to answer in terms of like, okay, what's the square footage? And you'll probably have this for your offering memorandums and everything, the square footage, the construction type, when's the updates been done on the actual structure, and finding out what components are at that property. And it's like, is it easy access for if there's ever a fire? Is there swimming pools? You'll have to provide all those facts and data to whoever your provider is, so they can essentially build you up a strong policy.
So, you know, as far as, you know, like their background, you know, I mean, I wouldn't know. So like, if I'm asking them about their background, is that going to be, you know, are you going to be focused on like this many years in the industry, or, I mean, what else could I ask them about their background to vet them?
So I think, yeah, you can find out like what insurance companies they're going to go to, in the sense of like who the key players are, finding out like, okay, we have maybe an exclusive program that's in this niche, or it could be we have these reputable companies. And so with an insurance broker, hopefully you have somebody that has options to you. And that's the great thing, is that they should be able to provide multiple options, be able to provide, you know, the pros and maybe some cons, and then think about ways of, you know, if there's something does happen, that you have protection.
And what are some you know, like key coverages, you know, that you would recommend? I mean, what are different coverages that we should think about, and I don't know, walk us through that.
So I think, yeah, big components is like understanding, you know, the nuts and bolts of an insurance policy. There's some, you know, understanding the construction type. So you can have like a proper building limit. So you want to know what like kind of the rebuild cost is. And then if you're first starting out, you might get a policy that's called a business owner's policy, and that's combining the general liability and the property components. And there's something for like business interruption or loss of rent. And the built-in policy could be, there's no dollar figure for it. It might be actual loss sustained as a terminology, but there is a time limit. And they build in maybe 12 months, and you should have somebody who's kind of proactive in the sense of like seeing what additional time you can get, maybe 18 to 24 months on that kind of component. And that's a big on the loss of rent. So if you ever have a fire in the building, you want to still collect rents and, you know, pay off investors, you know, making sure that you can help with your tenants as well. Ordinance and law coverage is a big component too, in the sense of you have an older building that may not be sprinklered, and then if it burns down, you need to get up to new codes, and it varies by each metro across the different states. But so you have to put sprinklers in if it's a kind of a newer building out in California, where I am. So, and then, yeah, on the liability portion, so you want to make sure that if you have larger assets, that you are understanding what limits you get. So maybe a policy is built into a 1 million occurrence, 2 million aggregate. So you want to possibly get higher limits, and you get like an umbrella quote to be able to, if something does happen, you could transfer that. And that comes into play a lot on like slip and fall type of claims. So if you're found negligent, you can actually, have the insurance company defend you in the sense that you're going through all kinds of legal costs in that regard.
Who is Vinney Chopra? Came to the U.S. from India with $7 in his pocket, and today he has created a portfolio of over $200 million in commercial real estate. He's a CEO of 5 companies, acquiring and managing diverse multifamily portfolio of 3,500 units, and his team self-manage all the assets. Vinney has walked the walk with over 26 successful syndications during multiple economic cycles, including downturns over 12 years. He has built a very extensive educational academy to teach and mentor investors. Vinney, tell us about this Multifamily Syndication Academy.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much. I'm really proud to really talk to everybody about this extensive multifamily academy that teaches new and sophisticated investors how to use other people's money through syndications. That has been my world, to buy apartments from 50 units to 500 units, and how to select emerging markets, how to do deal analyzing, investor education, other people money, syndication blueprints. Everything I have learned, I teach in this academy, and over 500 lectures, and also how to manage the assets also, and along with lots of great templates and PowerPoints, everything. And I personally also mastermind coach all my students every Wednesday. So to reach me, Whitney, all the students have to, or investors have to, just text the word learn, 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 to 474747, or call my team at 925-766-3518.
Wow. So, what about earthquake and flood, and there's been some hurricanes recently, right? That's destroyed lots of properties. And what are some things? Should I really think about having an earthquake or earthquake coverage or flood insurance, or those types of things, or is it just when they're in a flood zone, or help me figure out if I need those things?
Yeah. So if you have your insurance broker provider, part of their due diligence is, be able to measure out like what the risks are. If they're in California, earthquake is a big risk out here, especially in the Bay Area. There's been a lot of fires up and down the northern and southern California, unfortunately. And then if you are in a flood zone, that's going to be required by a lender. But maybe they have some data capabilities to show you that, okay, you're just outside the flood zone. So if there's everything that's happening, that you can actually get here with the flood insurance. And that's a different component. So with insurance policies, you have to maybe build and get a separate policy. And that might be a difference in conditions where you might get a flood or earthquake insurance in that regard.
So, as far as in the, I'll tell you what, in the syndication business, when we're, looking at properties and we're doing due diligence and we're, putting LOIs on deals, when in the process, let's say, I'm just brand new and I'm just getting started, and so I don't know when to contact somebody like yourself. When do I do that, and what does that relationship look like when I'm just, the listener that's just looking at their first few properties?
I would recommend, it's, I hear with the valuable team members with syndications, property managers, your lender, the insurance is going to be an aspect. So I would recommend getting them involved as soon as possible, really, in the sense if you're already having conversations with property managers, lenders, might as well start vetting an insurance broker out and getting them involved, because they might be a huge asset to you in the sense of like, hopefully maybe they'll walk the property with you. If you're going to go and acquire, they can kind of point out, like if you have an older roof, they can kind of walk you through in the sense of like, okay, you have a 25-year-old roof. Being that it's older roof, the insurance companies look at it a little bit riskier. They kind of cap it out in the sense of maybe it's an actual cash value on the loss settlement piece. Where that comes into the play is that the limit might be less because it's factoring in depreciation. So you can kind of they can help guide you through kind of components of like, okay, maybe this will make me a more of a sound risk management and with my investors and with for buying this property.
So, what else about insurance should I be asking you that I wouldn't even know to ask you?
I think, when you're buying your first property I think the key components is, part of the due diligence, ask for the copy of the policy, and then getting loss runs. That's the loss history. So that's factored in. You have the actual property itself with the year built, the factors there. But the big component as well is your loss history of that property. So you need to ask for ideally 5 years, and the insurance company will have something on their letterhead showing, okay, it's no losses here the last 5 years. Great. So then you kind of move forward. And if you have losses, they're going to want to know what's being done to future prevent these type of losses happening. So definitely get that up front. That would help your insurance broker provider. And then you would actually have more accurate pricing per unit for that.
So, it's something we hadn't talked about yet, but what about cost per unit, or, what's some figures we should kind of, a rough ballpark at least, keep in our mind when we're looking at due diligence and underwriting properties, specifically multifamily?
Yeah, so it can vary by metro and what exactly is on the insurance policy. So there might be something missing. So, but what I've seen is, looking at a lot of deals myself and then helping out various clients, it could be, somewhere around 250, 285, 320 per door. And that's for on the larger, multifamily kind of aspect. So it can vary, but you want to make sure what you're buying is a strong policy, because it might be missing something that you don't have. And one component that it could be overlooked right now, and you can kind of hear about with larger companies, is on the cyber data breach. If you pay attention to the news, it's, the Marriott's, Equifax, Yahoo, there's a whole slew of companies. So it's only going to happen more and more with the small businesses. It is happening. And you want to definitely, if you're hosting any data, that's personal identifiable information in terms of your social security numbers, your bank accounts, you want to make sure either your syndication group has it, and also even your property manager. Anybody's hosting or dealing with that data, they're vulnerable, and it's inexpensive in these days for buying the cyber data breach. So if if you have your property manager paying out the investors, it's definitely something that should be considered.
That's interesting. And I was thinking about the data that I have, or, what am I storing on different people, and how do I have that stored? Is it protected? And so is that the cyber data insurance? Is that something like even a very small business, or, just a couple employees should look into? I mean, or is that, or, something at much larger scale?
We offer it. We definitely, it's a conversation from a small business, could be a retail shop, to, the larger businesses where they might even have like contractual obligations to even purchase it. So it's definitely a conversation, and, it's even like a retail shop, their point of sale system could be vulnerable and cause a data breach. I mean, that happens. It's definitely happening way more often than, say, 10 years ago. So it's something to be considered, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Well, I mean, since you are, you're experienced in raising capital and on that side of the business, is that something you would suggest for somebody in your shoes as far as raising capital in the syndication business, as far as cybersecurity, and say you have a big network of investors? I mean, really, you're not going to have bank account. Well, I mean, I guess to some extent you could, have bank account information, routing numbers, all those things, so I was just thinking about, how that would apply to our business.
Yeah. So it's something that, if I'm investing in a deal, that I would want to make sure that they have some strong components to it. And, even though they might have a great IT system and, all kinds of security in place, things happen. So it's something that should be recommended. And I would definitely, if I was in their shoes, definitely buy it.
Okay. And so now maybe on the, raising capital side, Shaughn, tell us the hardest part of the syndication process for you so far.
I think the hardest part right now is just really getting the building up the network, in the sense of, like, I'm just starting out. So I'm just kind of really broadcasting myself, putting myself out there. So it's in the sense of just walking through the nuts and bolts of the deal, and be able to kind of walk them through how this is a great opportunity versus maybe the stock market, how that's so volatile. And this is pretty predictable, and it's, in my mind, relatively conservative, a way to really grow wealth.
And what's a way that you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
One thing that I've definitely using in my business, in the sense of what I do in my day-to-day job, and then with kind of the capital raising, we're looking to use kind of components of scheduling time. So looking into the Canly service, in the sense of we're able to block off time and be able to be efficient with scheduling time. There's another service called Grammarly. And so if you want somebody to help, like, proofread any of your emails or, blog posts, that can help making sure that it looks professional.
Yes, I use a service called Appointlet. It's almost the same thing as Calendly, but highly recommend using one of those for sure, and Grammarly as well. But what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
There's some of the components of, like, hearing a lot on the podcasts. I've done a lot of listening to that. So I'm in the car, hour and a half. So I try to listen to a podcast, learn something. I really kind of take into heart of, obviously taking education, research, but I think the biggest component is taking action. So, but if you can have analysis paralysis, but you learn a lot by doing. So my recommendation is, obviously get a foundation of understanding what you're doing, but take action. That's something I try to live by.
What's a big way you took action? Maybe the first time or most recent?
Just in the sense I've loved the real estate syndication model and wanted to kind of spread the word. So I think having the courage to do it recently, and starting my own business in that sense of something I'm proud of right now, and that look forward to helping out investors and help grow their wealth.
Nice. And Shaughn, how do you like to give back?
Definitely looking to get back kind of with my time. So in the sense of, I think a goal of mine is I want to be able to get into some charity work, and just be able to volunteer, and being kind of immersed. And so kind of helping out various businesses, individuals, with their mission. Nice.
And Shaughn, tell the listeners how they can learn more about you and your company.
You can get a hold of me. I'll give you my email. It's a bit lengthy as I have a long spelling name, but Shaughn Daugherty at integrogroup.com. So that's SHAUGHN Daugherty DAUGHERTY at INTEGRO group.com. We'll have that in the show notes as well. And you can also get a hold of me on my cell phone at 209-601-2288.
Great. Thank you so much, Shaughn, for being on the show and providing some valuable insights into insurance, which, we don't get to talk about too often, or probably often enough, because it's definitely extremely important. But thanks again for your time and being on the show. I appreciate the listeners being with us today. I hope they'll also go to LifeBridge Capital and connect with me, and be sure and join the Facebook group, the Real Estate Syndication Show on Facebook, and where we can all network and grow our businesses together. We'll talk to each of you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.